mastery of economics by people who advocate interest, every one of them. You see, they're claiming against the Federal Reserve because it's private. And then at other times, they cite, gods of Austrian economy, like Hayek, as if he's, a demigod or something, And in truth, Hayek tells us why the Austrian economists advocate interest. And if you want to read it for yourself, do a Google von Mises, Hayek, Hayek, and free market monetary system. Just put those terms in a Google search, and you'll find a von Mises page, and you go down about 3 or 4 paragraphs, and you'll see where he says exactly why they advocate interest. And it's because a banking system, quote, can be, and it can be, he says, it can be nothing but what he says. He says can be, quote, a banking system, quote, can be an extremely profitable business, unquote. Read it right for yourself, End of story. That's what Austrian economists are all about, and that's how phony Bill Stills is.
I'm just going to paste that very link into the chat box now for folks. There you go, folks. It's in the chat box now. Sorry, can you hear me okay, Mike?
Yeah, I can. Thanks for that. I'm, it's nice to be free to do one thing at a time. No, and it's amazing how all these people could do books. And there's a quote, I think it's by John Kenneth Galbraith, that only like 1 in a million people could decipher this problem. Well, in truth, he didn't even decipher it. He was only talking. I'm asserting he was only talking about unraveling it to the degree that he had, which still meant siding with these people who impose interest. He's not talking about exposing the whole facade and resolving it into an actual science, which is, infinitesimally banal or mundane or simple. It is so fundamental that a course on actual economy should take a week at most. And that's all you should ever have to know about it. In fact, listening to this program however many times you need to absorb it will teach you everything you need to know. And that is that there's one economy and one economy only, and that's mathematically perfected economy, where we pay each other for each other's production with equal measures of our production. Nobody exploits us at all. So what does that mean? We pay for production as we consume of it.
I think partly, Mike, correct me if I'm wrong here, but I think partly people must realize if, for example, we were to click our magic wand, or whatever you want to call it, if tomorrow this was in place globally, I think people would need to think about what this would actually mean to your life. You suddenly, to try and express how much this would actually mean to humanity, it's almost impossible to express emotionally, because it's such an emotional thing. It is if you're awake. It's not at all. I mean, there's other people who just sit there and not even blink an eye because it doesn't mean anything to them. I don't think people realize just how much the system in place at the moment.
One of the pages on the military that I'm building,
but the military feed off the system in place, folks. That's why there's so much death and destruction around the world, because war is big business under the system as it exists.
Excuse me. Well, there's actually more to it than that. If you follow the pattern of these wars, you'll see something that is amazingly phenomenal. And I was, the first one to point this out, but then everybody else was doing it so much so that you couldn't tell that I was the original author of it. And there's certain things that I need to keep quiet about when they go to that degree. And so one of the offenses of these plagiarists is that they mispresent and then you misunderstand. And another is that in the end, you don't know who the real author or engineer of solution is. So you have to look forever in all the monetary reform sites in the world now for Mike Montagne. But the truth is, I was there 15 years before anyone else. I mean, even Ron Paul supporters, Edwin Vieira, for instance, his so-called world, the foremost authority on constitutional money, Edwin Vieira. He's plagiarized all my work many times over, and won't even answer to me. But in the beginning, he discovered my web pages in the early 90s and went, wow, and wrote me immediately. And next thing you know, I'm invited to move to New Hampshire to form a libertarian state. Mm-hmm. And I said, whoa, where are you going with all this? I said, there's one mathematically perfected economy. These are the principles. I don't deviate from them. You don't have it if you do. And so where are you supporting mathematically perfected economy? What's all this garbage about gold you're writing now? Yeah. And I've already invalidated the gold standard. You've been to my pages. You're plagiarizing my article. Interest is usury, taking everything out of it that invalidates the gold standard as well. You purposely don't answer to those issues, and you don't have an answer. So why are you inviting me to New Hampshire? And I mean, the last I heard from Edwin Vieira, it's hysterical. I've had he's got this New Hampshire bill, and I forget the number of it. It's 1142 or something like that. And, people think that I must have some kind of nasty disposition or something. A lot of people assume that, which is just utterly wrong. I'm sorry, we're in a battle. I mean, a woman calls me a few months ago and tells me that there's 125,000 children under the age of 12 on the streets of Los Angeles homeless. And I take that incredibly seriously. I mean, would Barack Obama be protecting the banks if those were his daughters, on the streets of Los Angeles? I don't think so.
No.
And, if no one fights these people, you don't know the answer, and I hold them accountable. And so I've had this article for many years on my site, which invalidates Edwin Vieira, and he's a constitutional lawyer. And I doubt if you have the balls to call me over this, and it wouldn't change my mind anyway, because he wouldn't answer my questions, and he's not accountable, and he's phony as phony gets. So I have this article which invalidates both Ron Paul and Edwin Vieira over this New Hampshire Bill 1142, which basically Ron Paul claims that this guy is the foremost authority on constitutional money. And our Constitution forbids the states from issuing currency. And this bill in New Hampshire enables New Hampshire to issue gold currency. And it claims that this is going to help. Okay, but it doesn't say how. It makes some allusions, but that's all they are, is allusions, And, all right, we're not stupid. Explain this to us. I gave him the opportunity to do this, but I've already invalidated all these allusions. I mean, 20 years before he authored this stupid bill, after admiring my web pages and then replicating them as if they were his own. And so I've had this article up for many years, and I can't, for the life of me, get an answer out of Edwin Vieira. Just ignores me, all right? And so then all of a sudden, out of the blue, haven't heard from this bastard for 10 years, and all of a sudden I get an email. And he's a little weasel of a guy, and he insists in stiff lawyer jargon, and I've actually I'm such a terror in a courtroom that people have said I just make the most outrageous lawyer that there ever was. I mean, I can write one letter and it won't even go to court. I've got a lifelong record of things like this. So, anyways, old Edwin Vieira, he writes me and he insists that I recognize the fact that he did not participate in the version of the New Hampshire bill that I'm citing, and that I'm struggling for the word, but as obviously as I've got it in full caps, but it's tiny print. It's full caps so you can read it at a minimal size print, but that I as obviously repudiate and retract my claim that he co-authored this bill, New Hampshire 1142 or whatever it is. Well, this is hysterical, because where do I get this information? I get it from the New Hampshire State Records site, which you can go to right now yourself and find it. I cite the state records. So here's a guy claiming I don't even know if this is Edwin Vieira, because, a guy could have somebody write me, or somebody else could have written me, just wanted to protect
that happens.
Ron Paul or whatever. I don't even know. Give me a phone number. Talk to me. I'll talk to you. I might not like you, but I'll talk to you. Anyway, and he insists that I retract all this and quit presenting this article. And he closes this letter saying that any further correspondence will be unwelcome. And so, I think you don't even actually want to know what I think, because this disgusts me. And this is part of your money masters. These people are just in it for the money. They're not here to save you. They don't know what solution is, and if they did, they'd be hailing one. We wouldn't be divided over this. Each one springs up a new movement, a new following, believing that whatever is going to save us. But anyway, an interesting thing about this New Hampshire site, if you go there, research this bill, you'll find the same pages, I'm sure. But I think it was the treasurer of New Hampshire said that Ron Paul and Edwin Vieira were so incompetent in writing a bill that he was forced to do a substantial part of the work himself to get it into any kind of form that was even acceptable as legislature. And if you look at Ron Paul's bill to end the Fed, you'll know exactly what I mean. It provides no recourse. It accounts for absolutely nothing. It's as if accusations exist which are acceptable, but which are not even expressed. And we're just simply to do something which denies us even of any kind of economy at all.
Well, exactly. End the Fed was a chant. That's all it was. End the Fed, end the Fed, and do what? I kept saying. End the Fed and do what?
Yeah, and actually there's a lady who's running for Congress here who I'm actually quite impressed with, who knows the people who founded the End the Fed movement, and they're just kids, and they don't have a monetary solution, and that's a fact.
Yeah, they may as well support the Fed.
So what are they in it for? Selling T-shirts, something. And you can read a bunch of posts. I had, Jack Schott of the in the European Central Banks movement, and Mark Giles of in the Bank of England movement. They got me going on. They asked me to participate in some forum activity over there, and you can see a bunch of posts, and you can see where it goes with these people, because all you do is you run into a kafir or an Austrian economist who denies that you can apply mathematics to economy, and the whole thing degenerates into stupid drivel, just like that. But there is no monetary solution there. And as we've already said, there is one and one only monetary solution. What solves inflation and deflation, what solves inherent multiplication of artificial indebtedness, and what solves systemic manipulation of the cost or value of money or property. I didn't even really cover that, but the combination of the first and the third solution does. In other words, the system, its only powers to manipulate the cost or value of money or property are through corruption or subversion of the volume of the circulation, the disposition of the circulation, or the cost of the circulation, all of which are accomplished by interest and whatever standards of loaning or quote-unquote loaning are pursued. So those are the only powers. And so by solving those two powers away in our solution of inflation and deflation, which maintains a perfect volume of circulation, the only volume which perpetuates